Hey everybody. Hey everybody. Let's go live again. This is my live show for the Great Johannes live replay podcast. I'm gonna have some things to discuss, maybe for an hour or so. I'll keep you busy. I'm gonna interact a little bit with the viewers as soon as they come in. As usual, I stream on TikTok and then I repost this to my YouTube channel. I'm almost verified on my YouTube. I just need like 1,000 or more watch hours and then I can get monetized on YouTube. So everybody, I see some people coming into the live chat system. I just started. I'm going to be chatting a little bit, discuss some matters. I wanted to discuss, maybe most importantly, what happened in Dublin in Ireland today. Oh, no, not today. I mean, a few days ago, right? There was this stabbing, a total maniac, an Algerian immigrant. I call him an Algerian racist. He attacked a bunch of children, killed a bunch, and then what the mainstream media did was they presented this guy, this Chiao Benicio, a guy from Brazil who's a delivery driver, and they told you and everybody watching, they told everybody on the mainstream news that this guy was the one real hero. So, a day later, everybody finds out, oh wait, there were more heroes. In fact, this Benicio guy was late to the scene. He was like a passerby who really didn't do that much. What I'm trying to explain is, the mainstream media were so upset about the fact that diversity is obviously falling apart, right? Yeah, it was an actual Algerian man, yeah, an Algerian immigrant who was also set to be deported. You know, they already caught him earlier for all sorts of crimes. It's just insane. Anyway, so it turns out there are 3 other heroes that we didn't hear about. There was the lady, the woman, the teacher who threw herself between the attacker and the children. Then there was this other guy, Warren Donahue. He actually wrestled with the attacker, got him onto the ground. He tackled him basically, and he had his shirt slashed. He almost got caught by the attacker. And then there was another kid, Alan, a French kid, who was apparently doing an internship in Ireland to become a cook. And this French kid, Alan, a teenager, a 17-year-old, he took the knife away from the knife attacker. And then this Benicio guy, the delivery driver guy, comes along. And what did he really do? He didn't really do anything. He was there. This guy is now a millionaire. Did you see his GoFundMe? The delivery driver is now getting more than €1 million in funding from people who thought he was the real hero, even though it was actually the teacher and Warren Donahue. This is absolutely insane. Oh yeah, if you're watching this, I'm going to repost this video, the live replay, to my YouTube channel at The Great Johannes. That's where I store all my long videos, because TikTok is for the short videos. So let me type out my my username on YouTube and TikTok. It's the same one, really. Someone asked, what's the name of that microphone? This is the, well, I don't remember. It is a Rode microphone. I think it's the NT1 or something like that. How much was it? The microphone, probably €250 or so. Yeah. I think it's really good. It's kind of meant for singing as well. You can do more than podcasting, obviously. You know, and I think what the media are doing, man, it's just so unbelievably sickening. The mainstream media, let me adjust this for a bit. So, an immigrant slashes your kids. And this has happened before in France. Did you see the footage of this Muslim attacker who was already deported from Sweden, by the way? They sent him to France. And in France, he goes into this kindergarten playground outside, cuts up a bunch of children. Nobody really does a thing, right? And then the media, they hush it up. They don't talk about it. They don't want you to know that it's immigrants attacking our children. And they also don't want you to know that in the few cases where a hero actually rises to do something about it, it's a local hero, so they don't want to tell you about it, you know? Someone asks me if I want a quick loan, so I'm going to immediately block them. Bye. The flag behind me, the bird is the black raven of the Vikings. The Danish Vikings would sometimes have like a triangular flag with this bird on it. The bird flies to victory up into the wind. And the flames, I designed those myself, 9 flames circling around it. So this is my personal flag. I didn't really attach much meaning to it yet, but I just like it's my logo basically. It's my logo for my podcast as well. If you don't think I'm interesting, I'm just going to block you. It's just, what are you doing here, you know? Bye. This is so weird. If you don't like me, don't come here, you know? Really, a guy punched you on your bike, huh? Yeah, could be a cool tattoo. You want to take the design and make that a tattoo? Then send me a picture of it. I'm not going to take tattoos, though. When I was a teenager, I did think of taking a tattoo, like one of those tribal things on your upper arm, right? But I chose not to do it, and it was a good decision for me, you know. So why do the media do this, though? Why do the media cancel us out, us native Europeans, us, what do you call us, white folk, right? Why can't we be heroes anymore? Even when we're actually the heroes, and when the perpetrators are actually immigrants, you know, you need to just mention that, you know. It's a bit weird when you blot out the demographic that is native to Europe and is still by far a majority in Europe. You can complain that white people are no longer majorities in the cities or so, but the European continent has 740 million people in it. And the far majority of them, like 700 million of them, are basically native, autochthonous, indigenous people, basically white people. If you count the Southern Europeans as white, though, but who cares about definitions? It's not about being precise here, all right? If you want to support my work, just get a subscription to my newsletter on www.jmk.info. It's a Substack newsletter. I send something out like usually once a week or so, and I give you updates on my videos there. You know, I wanted to show you something. I'll put it on screen. I want to talk about. I got some people watching this, so why not bring this up? I made a video about the fact that I don't personally believe the moon landings were real anymore. I want to show you this. Look at this picture. This is from the movie 2001: Space Odyssey, directed by Stanley Kubrik. But what you are looking at, do you think it's real? Part of it is real. The apes are, of course, men in costumes, right? And a lot of the front ground, what you see in the front, is real, but the background is totally fake. And let me draw a line for you here. Here, in blue, I'm marking the edge of the studio. And what lies beyond it, yes, those rocks are also fake. This is real. And I'll prove it to you in a minute. Like so. So what you see over here is actually a projection. It's a background screen that Stanley Kubrik put up there in his studio. So the whole front section is real, but the back is possibly it's a painting or something. But what they do is they have a big screen there, and then they project something from behind the screen onto it so that it comes through, and then it looks really realistic, but it's not. It's actually fake. So what I marked in blue here is all fake background. Only this is real. And I'll show you another photograph here. This is also that studio. And can you, if you look at it for a little bit, do you recognize where the studio starts and where the fake background ends? Or where the fake background starts and ends? I'll draw the line again, because it goes a little bit like this. And then over here, this is all real. So what's below the blue line is actually real. And this, all of this is a projection on a screen. It's not real, right? And like I said, I want to prove this to you. Here is the picture of Stanley Kubrik's studio. Look, see, here you have that mountain wall that I just marked as well. And you have those rocks there, like so, right? And this is a screen. It's fake. They just project it. There's probably a projector behind the screen, and they map their picture or whatever it is, a painting, or maybe it is a photograph, maybe it is a real background, a real scene, right? But they project it onto the screen, and This is all fake, all right? So you can notice the screen here and then look back here. See, that's the screen, what I marked in blue here. This is all the screen, what I marked in blue. It's not real. Okay, now that you get this program, and Stanley Kubrik, of course, being such a great director, what about this picture? Is this real? Do you think this is real? Right? Stanley Kubrik is the director who is most often accused of being the director of the moon landings. But if he used the trick he used in 2001 Space Odyssey, do you think he also used it in this photograph? And I think he did. I think I can draw a line right here. And what is above the blue line is a fucking background. Just like you see here, that fake screen, right? This, above the blue line, is a fucking background. Now let me draw some lines here to give you some more perspective what I think this is actually, what we're actually looking at, right? I'm going to draw some lines here to make you visually realize that what you're looking at is a fucking studio. That background isn't really there. It's probably with a projector, a screen with a projector behind it, right? It's a fucking box. This is a fucking photo studio. They were never on the fucking moon. This is all fake. What I'm marking over here, this is all a fucking background. It's not real. Just like you saw here, right? It's not real. Let me clean this up a little bit. You see this here, the screen, right? It's not real. This whole background is fake. Same here. It's the same damn thing. This photograph was taken in a studio on Earth, very likely by someone with the same knowledge of Stanley Kubrik to make this kind of photo. I'll show you one more. What about this one? Is this real? Is this a photograph of a man on the moon? Really? You really believe that? Now this one is truly audacious, because initially I thought that maybe the background was somewhere like here, right? I thought the background started here, but it doesn't. Watch. Look at these bigger boulders here, these rocks. They seem to end right around here. This is a fucking studio. This man is standing right in front of a screen where they are projecting something. Now, if I trace the shadow, and I'll visualize it to you what we're actually looking at here to make it a bit more clear. Go through here, like so. Again, now I'll draw the lines up here, and you'll notice it'll become very clear now that what we are looking at here, again, is a fucking studio. All of this is a projection screen. It's not real. Just like here. You have the screen here, you have the screen here behind here, and in this picture, you have the screen over here. Right? Let me clean it up a little bit here. The screen over here, you have it here as well. This whole fucking thing is a screen. You're looking at a picture taken in a studio, and they told you it was a real photograph of a man on the moon. But why go to the moon and spend $1 trillion if you can just fake it in a studio and pay Stanley Kubrik a couple of million, right? Much, much cheaper. I'm going to discuss this photograph as well. You know, watch this one. Where do you think, is this a real photograph? You think this is real? Like on the moon, real, right? Bullshit. Here, let me draw the background again. It goes here, right there, and right there. What you see above the blue line is a fucking projection screen. It's not real. So let me visualize that a bit with my lines again. Up here, and so you're looking at a studio. All of this is a fake background. It's a wall, right? I'll show you again. Right here, you have that projector screen. You have it here, right here, and you have it here. These hills, they may be photographs, they may be paintings, but they are being projected from behind. This is a big screen, and they're projecting it from behind. and you think this guy is on the moon, but he's in a studio on Earth. It's a total fraud. It took me a long time to realize this. You may not believe me, but it's pretty convincing. I think Stanley Kubrik did this. It's just a fraud. Yeah, we were easy to fool. And it's a bit sad that people still believe in this. So, moving on to another topic, I've been working on a new speech. I'm writing it like an hour-long speech. It's going to be like 9,000 words or so, because I want to do like a sort of foundational speech where I explain my vision for Europe. And I think what we want for Europe is to end the relativism, the belief in moral relativity, the belief in cultural relativity that has really become our new religion, and it's been in the making since around 1850. So for almost 200 years, we've been infected with the religion of relativity that is supposed to replace Christianity, right? And supposed to replace absolutist morality and so on, right? And they're fooling us into thinking that our values aren't really valuable, our culture isn't really, you don't even have a culture. If you go to these AI websites and you ask the AI chatbot, hey, chatbot, ChatGPT, do you think black people have the right to preserve their culture? The answer is yes, of course, black people have the right to preserve their culture. You ask the same question about Jews, yes, of course, Jews have the same right to protect their culture. But then you ask, do white people have a right to preserve their culture? No, white people don't have the right to preserve their culture. It's just absolutely disgusting, I would like this flag behind me. Yeah, something like this. It's my personal logo now for my podcast. But yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll use it someday in the future as an actual logo for a movement. Yeah, that would be nice, right? Johannes is on another level, yeah. Yeah, I'm dismantling the empire of lies. Yeah, well, I think it's inevitable. With or without me, the US empire won't last forever. The question is simply, when will it fall? When it will fall, probably now that it is facing a war, a two-front war with both China and Russia. They're going to expect Europeans to fight Russia. They're going to expect American citizens and soldiers to fight China overseas, like they will send Marines and so on, and pilots. I don't think they can win this. I made a video about this, but I don't think they can win this. It's a bit far-fetched. Someone saw the AI vision of Germany's future where people turn brown. Actually, in the short term, this is possible where brown people become majorities in our countries. But in the long term, it's ludicrous, because why else did we evolve to have a lighter, paler skin? It's because of the shortness of the sunlight. And as long as that doesn't change, also, what are you doing? You're moving people from tropical paradises where everything is warm and nice, right? And you're moving them to the cold north where they need thick clothing and they need to heat their homes. Everything is more expensive, actually. It's so much cheaper to house people in Southern Europe than in Northern Europe. It's cheaper to have them even in Africa than in Northern Europe because of the heating costs. What are you doing? It's a bit silly. I don't believe that the German people, however, will turn brown. No, there will simply be more brown people living in Germany, but will they really stand a chance to survive there in the long term? It's ludicrous to think that tropical adapted people can somehow survive in the colder north. Of course not. I must have mentioned this before, but why are polar bears white? Why do they have the pale fur and the blue eyes? Right? And why do black bears not have these features? Because polar bears evolve in a cold climate. So where does blonde hair really come from? Where do light eyes and light skin really come from? It doesn't come from Africa. It comes from the north. We must have evolved these features in response to the colder climate, Do you think we can get in power via democratic means, or will it have to be a revolutionary? It will have to be a revolution. There are several strategies here. Do you know the political party called Volt, V-O-L-T? It's this pan-European party funded by George Soros. There's one in the Netherlands, there's a German one, there's a French one. They have this kind of party in every country now. That's something we could do. Imagine a nationalist party, but the same type of party with the same name, same logo in every country in Europe where we seize power together. You know, like a pan-European nationalist movement. That's a way to start it. But we definitely have to start building the leadership cadre first. Yeah? We right now in Europe, we are still divided in languages and so on, but also in the nations, really. You know, Brussels is it's a supra-state, meaning it's imposed on top of the European nations, and slowly it is eroding the sovereignty of these nations. But in my view, you know, I'm in dubio here because partly I wish to preserve the many different cultures of Europe, which means there will always be a Finland and there will always be an Austria, right? But at the same time, if you keep it just like that, and each nation has its own little army, and they can't communicate, then how are we supposed to defend ourselves against the big empires, the USA, Russia, China, right? The Islamic world, the African Union. They are all uniting, and so should we. We have no other choice but to unite Europe. But a united Europe is not a United States of Europe. It will be a united Europe. A united Europe with one big army, right? One diplomatic mission, meaning for communication, they go through one central point and not through each of the nations. Yeah, well, what did you expect? Someone says like it took Wilders exactly one day. Geert Wilders in the Netherlands won the elections a few days ago, and it took him one day to submit to Israel. Yeah, he wants to send the Palestinians to Jordan. Okay, well, better than sending them to the Netherlands, of course. But yeah, Geert Wilders is a Zionist. His wife is Jewish. I think he himself is also Jewish, you know. People don't know that, by the way. The normies who vote for him, they don't know that. And they didn't even vote for him because of mass immigration. They voted for him because of housing. Housing in the Netherlands is becoming such a big problem. Young people who are more likely to vote right-wing nowadays in the Netherlands, what are they supposed to expect out of life if they think they're not going to get a house? They're not going to be able to buy a house or own a house in the Netherlands. It's just over, you know. Oh yeah, Geert Wilders, he volunteered in Israel for a year before his political career, yeah. Well, doesn't surprise, right? Yeah, we have to unite and help the people in the Netherlands to food and housing. Now we need to unite Europe to become a military force to be reckoned with. Something really powerful, really strong, right? We should not allow Russia to invade us. In any relationship that we might have with Russia, Europe has 700 million people. Russia has 140 million. Russia should be our vassal. You know, they're not going to like hearing that, you know, but there's no reason why we need to submit to Russia. For the same reason that there's no reason that Europeans ought to submit to the USA. The US has like 330 million people or so, 220 million white people. They're dying out faster than we are in Europe, you know. And that's probably because Europe is actually cold. You know, much of the United States is more like Southern Europe and North Africa, whereas Europe is more like Canada, right? And like Canada is like Scandinavia, the north, like middle central Canada is like Scandinavia. It has the same vibe, you know. I hope the music isn't all too loud. So as usual, I do these live shows nowadays to practice speaking, also to keep speaking without too many big breaks. It really also serves as an exercise for myself. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the population are blind, but they don't know. Most people I had to learn this the hard way, but most people vote for their self-interest. They want the value of their assets to increase. Most people in the Netherlands, what do they own? They own a car. Well, that's not going to appreciate, but they own a house. The house normally for the past 40 years has been appreciating quite a lot. The housing prices in the Netherlands have quintupled 5 times or something, right? In 40 years or so, right? Let me think, I think houses, you used to buy them for 80,000 guilders, and now they sell for 400,000 euros. That's an 8-fold increase almost. So people have grown accustomed to this. They think that this is how it works. You buy a house as early as you can, and then you just expect the house in value to appreciate in value, so that later in life you can have a ton of money if you sell it. You can go on a cruise, right? But what most people don't understand is that this whole period of housing value growth was temporary. It was temporary. We're nearing the end of this. Can you imagine in a few years, 5 years or so, housing prices in countries like the Netherlands are going to stop increasing. People are going to start selling their houses. The price will come down again, right? People are not psychologically prepared for this at all. They still expect, young people nowadays in the Netherlands, they think, well, if I just buy a house at age 25, if I can, or 30 if you can, and then it will just become more valuable. No, these houses that will be sold for 400, 500K, they won't even be worth half that 10 years from now. The prices are going to plummet hard. No one is prepared for this, and this might be the opportunity for us in Western Europe. Meaning for us, when I say us, I mean us, people who watch my videos, right-wing people or whatever, to seize power, to explain to people, look, you've been screwed, and the people who screwed you, they knew they were screwing you. They just didn't tell you. Yeah, Wilders is also a foreigner, yeah. Why don't you like the term controlled opposition? To me, that just means you have other motives. You work for it. Wilders works for the Israeli lobby, the Israel lobby. So that's what I mean by it. They put him there to control their interests, really. Because the opposite of controlled opposition is the uncontrolled position, which is what I present. Right, housing prices will eventually burst. People can't afford it. That's how it goes. The older generations, like people in their 70s who own these big houses, they bought them super cheap. Their houses are very, very valuable now. But the younger generations are not able to afford those houses. So who are they going to sell those houses to? No one. There's no market. It's all on paper. It's paper money. It's not real. But these people spent their whole lives feeling as though they were becoming increasingly more important financially speaking. Oh, our house is worth 700K nowadays, right? And they see themselves as, well, we're like almost millionaires. What they don't understand is by the time that they all start selling those houses, first of all, no one can buy them. And secondly, the prices will have to come crashing down and everybody will start crying, Yeah, I've been to the USA often, yeah. I've been to like Miami, New York, Chicago, Las Vegas. I've been all around the US on several trips, multiple trips. Denver, Colorado even. Where else? New York, of course, and Los Angeles and San Francisco. I've seen all these big cities, yeah. So, yeah, well, because our older generations are dying out, someone asked, are they preparing those houses for third world migrants? Yes, they are. Because they're going to bring in so many millions of Africans, but why? It's unclear why, because most don't have skills. This is a fact. Half of them cannot read the Latin script. They are technically illiterate, for example. The Arab type people coming to Europe, they can probably read their Arabic script, but they can't read the Latin script, so they're technically illiterate again, right? Do you know how much time and money it will cost? To re-educate these people and make them read our languages, for example. It's just not going to work out very well. It's just really weird. I think one reason why the weird ruling classes in Europe are inviting the mass African immigrants is so they can start giving them the basic universal income, right? They start giving them, I'll give you an example here. There's places in London, Kensington, for example, a neighborhood, half of the people living there are immigrants, but they live in subsidized housing that they get for free. Guess what you have to pay if you are actually a working white person or working other kind of person living in Kensington? Your average rent is £2,900 a month. Do you see how ludicrous that is? The people who work to live there pay £2,900 a month. The people who don't work to live there, the immigrants, they get this shit for free. They get to live in the same neighborhoods, right? It's just insane. And then half of the renters in subsidized housing in these Kensington, in the luxury areas of London, are immigrants. They give these immigrants the perfect spots for free. You know how insane that is? This is why I kind of changed my mind about work life. Because I realized 20 years ago, I'm a bit of a forward-looking person. I realized, well, wait a minute, what am I really paying for? I'm paying for the pension, but the pension, I will never receive it. It will be spent on building immigrant housing or building mosques, right? I'm paying taxes, but what are my taxes being spent on? They're being spent on housing migrants and building more mosques and so on. So what am I doing? I don't want to be the cash cow that they get to squeeze out just to build, just to build infrastructure for the migrants. And while they phase me out, they expect you to pay for it, right? They're trying to get you to go extinct, and they expect you to pay for it. We're the cash cows. They're milking us dry. But it doesn't have to be this way. I accept that we have an old population of white people who were very greedy, who were very insensitive toward the younger generations, didn't really care about young people. And they're going to die off in the next 10, 15 years, probably next 10 years. The boomers will die out. They'll be gone. They have a tremendous bulk of wealth that they carry with them. Who are they going to give it to? Well, they can give it to their children through inheritances, but I can already predict to you right now, the sort of leadership we have in Europe today, they're going to do whatever they can to get at the wealth of the boomers. They're going to take that money away from them, right? To make sure that you do not inherit your boomer parents' money. It has to flow to the state so they can give it to as a universal basic income to the Africans and the Arabs that they want to flood Europe with. What they're basically doing is they're turning Europe into a communist superstate ruled by these communist left-wing elites. For some reason, the European elites are very left-leaning. We don't have the fighting nobility or the blood nobility anymore. We don't have that anymore. What we do have are these communist elites ruling Europe, basically. And they just want to replace the patriarchal, independent, self-determined white middle class with a completely subservient class of people from India, the Arab world, and Africa. Because apparently it works. Apparently the migrants coming to Europe are more docile. They're very aggressive and violent toward us in one sense, in terms of rape statistics and crime statistics and murder statistics. But they seem to be economically far more docile, and importantly, they are also much more matriarchally inclined. The most Central African people are actually behind the scenes ruled by the women, right? The new Napoleon movie came out, and they make you believe as though Napoleon was only motivated because his wife made him do it, as though he didn't have a personal motivation. That's matriarchy, the belief that women behind the scenes are in charge of everything all of the time, and that men really are just, appendages, right? And it's a bit of nonsense. Let me read this question. Do you think the suggestion that whites living in the colonies should move to Europe becomes serious? Yes, of course, because in my view, the way I look at the world, I don't think the United States, the white middle class in the USA can survive. They will be purged, basically. When the boomers die out, whites are a minority, and then what? Same in Australia, same in South Africa. Everything is turning into a South Africa. You can be fractionalized like that, but what really should happen is we need people in Europe to defend Europe. And once we know for sure that we've got Europe, then we can start reinvesting in the colonies again. Then we can make South Afrikaners strong again, and the people in New Zealand, the Kiwi people, whatever, right? Because how else are you going to do it? We are really dealing with the issue here is that these elites want us gone for the very reason that we are not obedient enough. The white middle class doesn't obey. And because we're older people. On average, white people are the median is 40 years old or so, in Europe at least, or even older in Germany. The newcomers, the migrants, they're 16 years old on average, right? Or 20 years old on average. They are much more manipulable and much more motivated by wealth and money, by getting a job and making $18 an hour, right? They still want to do that, whereas the older, white generations, they see through the bullshit by now. They don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. Here, I want to answer this question. Somebody said something about... Okay, I'm browsing through some questions here. I don't know what's hypocritical. Here, maybe the Aborigines or First Nations might like their lands back. No, because see, you're misinformed. You don't even know what it's like. The Aborigine people, they used to live in the north of Australia, and guess where the white colonials settled? They settled in the south of Australia. These were completely separate territories. Mind you that Australia is about the size of Europe. And the white people settled in the south where they could start do agriculture. Whereas the Aborigines, they simply lived on as hunter-gatherers in the north. Their lands were never really taken away from them. So there's nothing to give them back. You know, the Aborigines were not doing agriculture when the Europeans arrived. The Europeans introduced agriculture to Australia. They were hunter-gatherers, right? They didn't have clothes. They were just totally naked people. There's a video actually on YouTube where you can see how the Aborigines responded to the first contact with the white man. You know, and you see you see them describe us. They're just overwhelmed. The men feel very humiliated because of the supremacy, the truly technological superiority of the Europeans, right? They came with airplanes. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine being a savage and you see an airplane? That's your first contact with the superior culture, is an airplane. And then the airplane lands and they describe them that they ran into the bushes. They hid in the bushes for 3 days because they were so terrified of the white people, right? But eventually the white people got into contact with them, gave them food and clothing because they didn't have clothes, right? Man, and then they taught these savages our languages. They taught them English, and then they taught them about, you know, Christ and God and so on. You know, this is mad. Yeah, they were savages. You know, they were wild people who are like basically Neanderthals who had never even had any concept of civilization. Their first contact with us was a contrast of truly, you know, masters of the universe meeting people who don't know what clothes are. That's extreme, man. That's so extreme. People don't realize how incredibly big the difference was between what the Europeans were doing already and these people living in the jungle. It's just insane. You know, hunter-gatherers are nothing like people living in a civilization. It's completely different. You can complain about that, but at least I'm telling the truth, you know. They're not equal. People are not equal. Equality is a great fiction that we used to tell each other about. You know, it's something your grandfather tells you about, but it's also a lie. And what I noticed is with the anti-white racism is just so extreme. Nobody thanks us for what we've given them. We've given the world modern civilization, modern technology, electricity, for example. You flip on the light switch and you don't think to yourself, oh yeah, white people invented that, but white people invented that, you know? You should be thankful for it. All these people using electricity and phones to complain about us, calling us colonizers, calling us racist, they don't realize that we gave them the very technology that they are now using against us, right? Now, I don't think we can take the technology away, and I don't support that either. I support the continued development of, say, Africans in Africa, primarily because a country like Nigeria has 220 million people or so now. They need to stay in Nigeria. There's nowhere else where they can go. What they have to do is they have to modernize Nigeria to the point where people can find their meaningful jobs and meaningful lives to live, right? And preferably without depending on United Nations handouts, preferably something they can do on their own. They need to have their own industry. So of course I support a transfer of, well, not wealth and technology, but a transfer of responsibility. You got to make people responsible now, okay? We gave you modern civilization and modern technology. Now it's your responsibility to actually use that and better yourself. It's not our job anymore. Too many people think that white people are the parents of everybody else, like that's the white man's burden concept. But we're not your parents. You're not our children. We are basically a different species, and we gave you our technology and our knowledge and access to our libraries. You could have read up on everything that we already invented. You know, you could have used that technology as a head start, but no, instead you just keep whining about reparations. That's just so sad. As you can tell, I really, really have had enough of so-called minorities who are actually the majority of the world. White people are like 8% of the world. So 92% of the world calls us bad people for the fact, for what? For giving them the technology to have so many children. Right? Medical technology, for example, medicine, hospitals. Who invented hospitals? Who gave hospitals to the Africans? You know, you can thank us for it, you know. It's not our fault that by the year 1900, Central Africans had not heard of the philosophers of Greece or of the mathematicians or astronomers or astrologers or architects, not from Europe, not from India, not from the Arabs, not from China. It's not our fault that they didn't inform themselves. It's not our fault that they didn't go out to see if there was perhaps a little bit more than, life in the jungle. Now, everybody gets this wrong. There's a concept of privacy. You have the right to some privacy, meaning in the sense that you have the right to live with the people you like to live with. For most people, however, this simply is hanging out with people of your own race. Andrew Tate got this completely wrong. Andrew Tate always said that if you're a billionaire, billionaires aren't racist. They just love each other. But that's not true at all. Billionaires, they have private clubs and you're not invited. The rich people were always more racist than the common people. The common people are, due to their economic struggle, forced to cohabit and coexist with everyone else. But the rich don't do that. If you look at, say, the members of the Green Left Party in the Netherlands, that party promotes diversity wherever they can. But if you look at the actual members, the paying members of that party, they're all rich white people. All European people should work together, definitely. On my TikTok channel, I noticed that in the past few weeks, I've got more and more videos reaching like 50,000 views or so. But then I often get reported, the video gets taken down. Although I win the appeal, I can't reinstate these videos because TikTok's censorship works so that even though I won the appeal, people can still report the video again, and then I lose the video again, and then I won't be able to appeal it for the second time. Then I get a strike down. That's why every time that a video is taken down and I win the appeal, I still have to hide the video. I set it to private because otherwise I might risk getting a strike anyway that I can't appeal. Okay. And what I don't like about TikTok is that they don't change that algorithm. So every time one of my videos are becoming more and more popular, right? But they get shot down. That's what I'm trying to explain. My video rises up and it gets shot down, right? Another one's shot down, another one's shot down. And I'm trying to break through that, what do you call it? Break through that barrier, right? So hopefully in the future, some of my videos, if I get the wording exactly right, that it doesn't offend anybody, maybe some of them will shoot up into the million views zone, right? I am obviously, as a speaker, interested in reaching a larger audience. And I'm using several tools, TikTok, YouTube, the live streams. I'm using my newsletter. You can subscribe to www.jmk.info, by the way. Okay, I'm going to respond a bit more to your comments now. One time a teacher docked my grade because I used the word mankind. You should have said humankind or person-kind. That's just so sad. That's just so sad. And I know something about this. In the word for man comes from Old Germanic manas, and manas had two meanings: one, male, and two, humanity. So it's simply one word that has two meanings. Same in English, of course. You can speak of mankind, which means humankind, or male kind. Yeah, but that's not really what mankind means, right? It's not like you would change the word manipulation. Yeah, you know what? We should stop using the word manipulation and say womanipulation, because that's what it really is, right? People kind. Oh God, yeah, Justin Trudeau. Yeah, these people are nuts, man. Do you think hold on for a moment. All right, Europeans are not invisible and never will. Yeah. It doesn't matter to me if a good quality people is a small people. Just 200 or 300 years ago, I think we would have had just 30 million people in all of Northern Europe or so. we didn't go extinct then we actually became more powerful, right? So that's the real issue here. I think Europeans will be fine as a group. Some of us will be lost to diversity, some of us will be lost to wars, but some of us will just thrive and be fine. That's my whole point. We have the right to plan for that future, to look ahead and say, okay, these people, we move forward, we achieve something more. We can populate the subarctic region in case the temperatures are rising. If it gets colder in Europe, that will be even greater, because then a lot of the southern tropical type people, they just won't want to live here anymore if it gets too cold, right? Yeah, wait. Let me look something up. I was always interested in the difference between... I know that in the USA you have about 14% African Americans. How many is it in Canada? Canada has a lot of Pakistani and so on, right? So I'm on Wikipedia looking at Black Canadians demographic. There needs to be some kind of percentage here, right? It seems to be less, yeah, just as I expected. Something like... Oh, you have Caribbean, Canadien Noir, Black Canadians, yeah. It looks like it's something like around 5% in the USA. As in Negro Africans are 5% in Canada. See, that's less, and that's to be expected because Canada is just a lot colder. It's just not pleasant. For the same reason that I would not want to live in Congo. It's just way too damn hot there for me in the summer. You know, also, if you live in a climate like Central Africa, it's always hot. You can't escape it. Whereas in Europe, you can have hot summers, but then you always have the pleasant cold winters. You have the fall, right? You have the spring, you have the change of seasons. And I think this is an important difference, by the way, between white people and everybody else. The Chinese, they live in a constant climate. Chinese people in China, they always have it warm, around 30 degrees or so, right? In the south, at least, I mean. My point is, they don't really have the change of seasons that we have in Europe and also in Canada. Europe has cold winters and hot summers. We have both. You can't trust the USA definition of white, but whites are about 50 to 60% of the USA population, yeah. Because they now include Hispanics, they call Hispanics white, but I think Hispanics from Spain can be white because a lot of them have Gothic ancestry, you know, like the Visigoth, the Visigoth, yeah, and the Vandals. So, but there are nowadays, of course, there are a lot of people in southern Spain and southern Italy who are Arab or somewhat Arab because of the colonialism of the Islamists. The Muslims colonized Spain, of course, under Andalusia. So colonialism then is a two-way process, right? The Ottoman Turks, they colonized Bulgaria, right? And that's just how it is, you know. When we speak of colonialism and reparations, we should be asking reparations from the Turks and the Arabs. You colonized us, you should pay for it. Or maybe it's also an idea, if people outside of Europe keep sending their constituents, their citizens to us, shouldn't we start charging for it? You know, if you want to make Europe the hotel of the world, we should start charging per night. You know, you send your people, you send 1 million people from Turkey to the Netherlands, then okay, great, but then pay us $50,000 a year per person. Fine, we'll take care of them, you know? We gotta be able to monetize migration, because if people keep sending their people to us, we just need to be able to profit off of it. You know, you want to send them over here, fine, but then you're going to pay for it. You gotta give us free oil, for example. How else are we supposed to feed and house your people? We're supposed to feed and house your people and then give us free oil. I wonder if people are actually thinking of doing something like that, you know? Yeah, that's what the Crusades were about, because they were beheading people. You know, the Crusades were small compared to the invasions of the Islamic peoples. They had like 1,000 invasions of Europe. We had like 12 Crusades in return. It's ludicrous to even compare this. The Christians wanted free passage to Jerusalem, but Christian pilgrims from Europe on their way to Jerusalem, they were robbed, beheaded, killed, and so on, right? And that's why the Christians began to clear out the path to Jerusalem so that we could have our pilgrimage there, you know? That's what it was really about. There's a really good book by Rodney Stark. on God's Battalions. That's what it's called. It's such a great book about the Crusades. It really changed. It tells you the story that they don't tell you. Let me type that out here. Rodney Stark, God's Battalions. It's such a good book. Have you noticed the Gulf countries are not accepting Arab immigrants? No, of course not. They're using migration as basically a weapon of colonialism. They're sending their people to us just as they did in the past when they took southern Italy and southern Spain. Now they want to capture more of Europe. So they just send their people to our cities to become the majority. And the idea is then, of course, that eventually their people also take on the leadership roles, right? Have you seen that in the United States, that of the new hires of corporate America in the past year, only 8% were white people, 92% non-whites. They're phasing us out just like that. And this is why I say we have if we lose the protection of the nations we founded, then we have every right to revolt and make a stand for ourselves by all means necessary. All we need to do is find the motivation, convince the people to do it. And even if it were a small group, say 5% of us doing it, we should still do it. There's no reason for us to hold back. No one's ever reported my live streams so far, and that's amazing because I get a ton of reports on my regular videos. But here on this live stream, well, we'll see. I'm inviting, knock, 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 right? Yeah, no, they want to drive out the Palestinians from Gaza for whatever reason. I suppose Israel is just expansionist. They just want to take the territory, take their Lebensraum. And then they want to send the Palestinians to Ireland or to Egypt or to Jordan or wherever, right? But I think from the Muslim perspective, they simply see that people are their only real weapon. All they've got is producing children and then sending those children to other lands to colonize those lands. That's their strategy, basically. That's it. And so they like to win through the wombs, right? Whereas the USA is an extremely technological nation. And I think China is a combination of population and technology, more balanced. But that's what they do. They hope to conquer Europe simply by sending more of their people here. They don't care. Why are they sending millions of Africans and Muslims to Europe? Well, first of all, those nations are just trying to colonize Europe. That's their motive. And from our perspective, it's the low-cost labor. Also, the idea that we can build a communist superstate like the global open society with this diverse population. They think that if you have enough diversity of different kinds, then no one will be strong enough to overthrow the state. But of course, we can still escape the state. You can still have, say, a 5% white minority in a future Europe could still find each other and simply break away and start over, or elsewhere. The world won't stay the way it is. The world is always in motion. It's dynamic. I've spoken about this at length before, that the subarctic regions of the northern hemisphere can become habitable, like Siberia, large parts of northwestern Eurasia, including Scandinavia, northern Canada, and so on, Alaska. All these places, Greenland, Antarctica, all these places can become more habitable, more receptive to our people in the future. So why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we just prepare for that? Well, of course we're going to prepare for that. I mean, the idea that the world is somehow statically fixed and we are going to be trapped in the global open society by George Soros, it's just such a ludicrous idea. People will revolt. People will not want to be a part of it. Even if you made all of humanity homogeneously brown with one religion and one language, which is ludicrous because that will never happen, all right? But even if you achieved that, people will still find reasons to break away. You still have age differences. Okay, they want to efface age difference now. Jesus. Oh, and then we still have male and female, so we have to erase the sexes. Like, what are you doing, man? You're turning the world into some retard asylum or something, you know? The people pushing for this equality-based communist nonsense, they hate humanity. They truly hate humanity. Let me pop out the comment section here. So I'll be reposting this video later to my YouTube at The Great Johannes. So you can always watch the longer version video replays there. My thoughts on capitalism. Yeah. It's another ism. You know, capitalism, there's two versions that I learned about two versions of capitalism when I went to university. You have the sort of capitalism that extracts profits from its environment, thereby making the environment poorer and the rich richer. There's also a value-based capitalism, which adds value to the environment in order to make the whole system more valuable. Well, I do support the value-adding capitalism, yeah. But profit-extracting capitalism merely for the sake of taking the money, that's what Bill Gates does. And that is just not right. It's not helpful. It's not useful, you know. Do you believe, what do I think of interracial marriages? Wrong. I wouldn't do it, no. You know, mixed race people are not always happy that they are mixed race. Many of them feel that they are not part of either side of the family. They feel really alone, right? Because they're really technically a new race. There's something else that has never existed. You know, there are people who say that mixed race children are more beautiful, but in fact, I think in reality, it's the opposite. They're less beautiful. They're less attractive. You know, you can believe that if you mix two people, you always get the best of two worlds. What if you get the worst of both worlds? And that's how it is to a lot of people. It's just not healthy, you know? No, I don't think so. Mixed race will only grow, but only in the cities, and even in the big cities like New York City, you have racial segregation everywhere. Amsterdam is a totally racially segregated city. And it looks like it's just the people in the lower classes who are mixing races. Basically, the white women who couldn't get a good white man feel forced to then look beyond racial borders. But even most white women, you can just go ahead and ask women on TikTok live, just ask them if they would want to be in a mixed race relationship. Many of them will simply openly tell you no, they just like Dutch people, or they just like German people, they just like their own people. And I think that's pretty normal. There's a very sense of healthy normality among young people, is that they simply naturally reject. I've got an unstable connection, I don't know. A lot of young people simply naturally reject racial miscegenation. They just don't want it. And they didn't need to be taught this. It's simply something they feel naturally, instinctively in their own biology. They just wish to be around their own people. Everybody wants that, you know? It's not how it is, you know? What do you think of Europeans with a small amount of blood from other places, like 25%? That's not a small amount. That's like Geert Wilders, he's like a quarter Indonesian, right? Alright. Just playing some synthwave music on the background. Alright, I've been talking for about an hour or so, and usually around this time I start running out of things to say. Let's see if I can come up with stuff. Yeah, I don't know, man. Geert Wilders doesn't look white to me. He looks really ugly. If you look at his face closely, hey, he dyes his hair blonde, but it's just such a freak of nature, man. Yeah, I'm like less than 2% Neanderthal, but keep in mind that when they say that you have 2% Neanderthal DNA, it doesn't mean your DNA is like strangely Neanderthal. It means you got 2% of your human DNA from a Neanderthal ancestor, but it's still, in the way that it is put together inside you, it acts as human code. In other words, you're not 2% Neanderthal. You got 2% of your human DNA from Neanderthal ancestry. So that's a very different matter. Do you think he'll actually do anything? Geert Wilders of the PVV? No. He's a shill for Zion. Controlled opposition, as we say. Do you know why mixed people barely have any European features? That's not actually true. Yeah, well, the stuff we got from the Neanderthals, it benefits us. It gives us immunity to the cold or something. Central Africans have very little Neanderthal DNA, like 0.1% or so, but not zero. They probably got, because there was a group of Cro-Magnon Europeans who eventually crossed through via Gibraltar into Western Africa. So a lot of West African people actually have some European DNA because they inherited that from us. The back migration, yeah. They don't always like to talk about that. So they got the Neanderthal DNA probably from the back migration with us anyway. But did you know that West and Central Africans, they have up to 19% archaic DNA from something like Homo ergaster or Homo erectus, That is something you need to talk about. I made TikTok videos about that, but those got taken down, obviously. What do you think of mixed people proud to be European and want to help Europe? Well, you know what's so strange? Why are they proud of being white or European? Meaning they don't like their brown side. I always notice that people who are half white and half something else, they all want to be white. They never want to be the other thing. Why? What I do think is really wrong. In China, some people are able to adopt white children and they raise them as Chinese, or they have like white semen transported and they get a child that is half, right? An adopted child, for example, or a mixed child, and they raise them as Chinese people, and that's how you can really see how wrong that is. We shouldn't be allowing this. I think mixed race adoption should not exist, and you shouldn't sell sperm bank sperm to random women all over the world who want to have a Danish baby or something. That is not acceptable. These people, the children, they will be so mad that they were left out of their homeland, basically. I also oppose, for the same reason, adoption of black babies. If a white couple adopts a black baby, I think that's just wrong. You're removing a child from its natural environment, robbing it of its family and its people and its customs and language and so on, and you raise it as though they are like a German or a Dutch person, whereby you are technically saying that that's better for them. Then you're saying that our culture is superior, but we built our culture. How did that happen, So you're basically admitting then that we are superior people. Yeah. Neanderthals had very good social behavior, sadly extinguished, I don't know, the debate on Neanderthals is still ongoing, and they say that the Basque people of northern Spain are most related to the actual Neanderthals of the past, and the Cro-Magnon as well. It turns out that possibly because Neanderthal females were rhesus positive or something, there is a certain blood type. The Neanderthal females were likely unable to mate with human males. They might have had one child, but by the second child they would have died of blood poisoning in the womb. And so it's possible that if there was any mixing going on between Neanderthals and humans, it was Neanderthal males mixing with human females. Does it make sense to be pro-Zionist or pro-Zionist and anti-immigrants? No, absolutely not. Because the Zionists, they want to send all the Palestinians to Europe. These are the people opening our borders. They use Europe as a dumping ground for every war that they start. Right? And then they don't want immigrants coming to Israel, but they want them to come to Europe. Europe needs to quit. Europe needs to just quit being the dumping ground. It's just so wrong. Thank you too. What music I like? Synthwave, synth pop, trance music. Those are the styles I sometimes produce myself as well. Do you think European countries have enough resources to be self-sufficient? In terms of food, yes. With an alliance with Russia, we can make almost anything ourselves, and we will still do trade. Trade will always go on. When I speak of European independence, people think that means we cut off from the world and we never talk to anybody again. No, European independence means we decide ourselves who we deal with, right? So it's more about autonomy and independence, and this is very important. Thoughts about Kushites and Kushitic people? I have no idea. I don't know everything about everything. I don't know who they are. Should the West stop supporting Israel, though? Maybe we need to make, I still have a hard time grasping what exactly is the benefit of Israel. What is the geopolitical value of Israel? It's not quite clear to me. I think it's really just an emotional, religious struggle there, in which case Israel doesn't have any value. Yeah, that's probably the right answer. In terms of what Israel is all about, it's symbolic. They just occupy the Holy Lands, that's it. It's because the three big religions of the West, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, they all tie into that place, Jerusalem. Maybe that is what it is, it's just symbolism. Yeah, and that, in which case, if we were not so sentimental about it, we could be making more powerful decisions and simply, do as we please. Right, Egypt has the Suez Canal, which also means they control a lot of the global traffic. So Israel needs to be near there probably to protect its trade interests, the global trade interests. But again, all these things are secondary to the fact that primarily Israel has sentimental value. I do not support the invasion of Iraq. It's just a waste of time to us. What did we really gain there? The American corporations got richer, but Europe paid the price because we had to absorb tons and tons of immigrants, I don't know if Gaza has gold and gas, but I do know that there's the Gaza marine gas strip outside in the Mediterranean Sea, and that seems to be quite valuable to them. Valuable, but is it enough to justify genocide of 2 million people happen to living there? No. The elites, they play chess with people and nations, so it's all about, in the end, you have to accept that people and their pharaonic personality styles, they just want to look powerful and more powerful, and that's what it's all about, really. I think the illegal invasion of Iraq was done to defend Israel. Well, I also think it was done to just really get the oil. They say it wasn't about oil, but well, it was, of course, about oil. Energy is one of the most important reasons why militaries invade anything at all. It's for oil, gas, and if there's gold, yeah. I mean, the British Empire took South Africa from the Afrikaners because of the gold. Do you know of anyone like me on social media in America? No, I don't. I do know there's a young woman, Sophia Aragona. She's from England, though. She speaks perfect English. Other than that, I don't really know anybody who thinks like me. Most American right-wingers, they're Zionists. And that's why all these conservatives, like you have like Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, I don't trust these people at all. I think they're so weird. And who else do you have in the USA, Nick Fuentes, yeah. Haven't really watched much of him. I just don't really trust the Americans. Candace, oh no. That's just... I don't like that kind of setup where they give you Candace Owens and she says all the right-wing things you want to hear, but in the end, she just wants reparations. You know, behind the scenes, she's reparations. Was the Gulf War a global war against Iraq? Perhaps, you know. Yeah, I repost her videos. It's just one of the few people who actually says things that resonate with me, you know. There's also a woman from Slovenia, Daria, on TikTok. She also says things that are incredibly interesting. She makes very long videos, up to 10 minutes, but what she has to say is just so valuable. There are not that many people that I look up to anymore. No. There's a few people here and there who I think are trustworthy, reliable, like consistently on our side, and not all of a sudden, like when Jordan Peterson came out as a Zionist, or when Tommy Robinson was outed as a Zionist Jew, or when, I don't know, Douglas Murray, you know, is like also a Zionist now. Like, this is so stressful that all these people who say a lot of good things, like 99% of what they say is right, and then that 1% is like, oh, by the way, we're Jews and you gotta support Israel. You know, why are there so few non-Jewish thinkers? Maybe there's a problem with us, you know? Maybe we're being censored. I can't believe that we're alone, you know? No, I don't see anything positive in Islam. As a student of Egyptology, it drives me nuts how the black community is trying so hard to spin history. Yeah, they falsely assume that North Africa was always Negro black. And because Americans, when they say black, they think Africa was black. But really only Central Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa was black. North Africa, the Horn of Africa were never really black. You know, that's so strange. They just don't get that, you know? They're living in Delulu land, totally delusional. Yeah, you want to follow this girl. She used to post more often. Now she doesn't post so often anymore. Wait, I'll just post her usernames here. If I get it right. I keep promoting their channels, and the other one is, if I'm right, it's this one. Daria. I think Irish are fantastic people. Irish people, because I'm from the Catholic South in the Netherlands, and Ireland is a Catholic nation, right? I feel some kind of kinship there, some brotherhood there. Like the Irish people, they're fighters, man. They want to fight for their independence, and they actually fought the British for so long with the IRA. I totally understand that, man. I totally get that, man. You know, religions are born of people, and so it's not correct to say, oh, Christianity came from the Middle East, it was imposed on us by the Jews through the Roman Empire. But Christianity as it is today, the European Christendom, is an expression of the European religious soul. So it's not comparable anymore. It's different now. Same as that American Christianity is very, very different from European Christianity, right? I think we can use the Catholic religion carried by the people as a starting point for a religious revival in the Western world, in Europe at least. That doesn't mean I support Pope Francis. He's obviously not one of us. You know, what the church does in terms of its bureaucracy does not resonate with the people right now. Yeah, well, you know, Rome and Greece are European people. Have always been. Italy is in Europe, you know. Italians are white people. People are so confused about the past, man. It's just really weird. Yeah, what I don't like about the American Christianity are these huge rock star concerts with their pastors or whatever that is all about. The things they do, man, a European Catholic mass or something is just very, very different experience. Oh, evangelicals. Oh yeah, okay. Maybe that's what I keep seeing on TV, of course. Yeah, it's very different. Yeah. In the end, it doesn't even matter what territory we occupy, as long as we can have a large group of people continue to live as we want. You know, I feel in one way Europeans are trapped in the scheme of work hard to own a house and then just sit. You know what I mean? We're prisoners of our own system. We have this culture now that says work hard, buy a house as soon as you can, and then just watch your house appreciate in value. I spoke about this earlier. And that's just weird. We shouldn't have to be that way. It's more that Europeans, not all of them obviously, but say 5%, 10%, 20% of us can actually break loose from the majority and start something wholly new. A new culture, a new civilization, you know? I agree, there's no meaning or depth to life. Meaning or depth to life currently, yeah, true. Life is just all about work for money, and then you spend it. And today's generations, they can't even save money anymore. They spend everything on expenses, you know, rent and whatever. This is weird. Yeah, the evangelicals, yeah, those are the ones who act like rock stars, yeah. That's right, that's what I meant. Yeah, if I was president of Ireland, I would only allow European immigrants and deport anyone else. Yeah, definitely, I would do the same thing. Alright, I'm running out of things to say, so I'm gonna wrap up. I'm going to repost this video to my YouTube at The Great Johannes, and you'll watch the replay there. And you can get a subscription on my www.jmk.info. It's my Substack newsletter. I send one out like once a week usually. Yeah. Have a nice evening.